Alice's friend, David, brought her to William, begging him to procure a special medicine for her sick sister. She offered to pay for the medicine, and William replied that it would cost $100,000. This price brought back memories of a night 1 year ago. At that time, in order to raise $100,000 for her sister's medical expenses, she took off her nightgown and had a one-night stand with William because he said that as long as she pleased him with her body, he would be willing to pay for the medical bills. A year later, their paths crossed again, and William remained cold and indifferent, refusing to help her. David said he was willing to pay the money for Alice, but she stopped him and said, "This has nothing to do with you. I can handle it myself." William walked up to Alice, secretly touched her butt, and said, "Whoever buys the medicine pays the money. That's the rule." After saying that, he smiled and left, knowing that his game with Alice had only just begun. William ordered Alice to get into his car, then he stroked her chin and told her that if she wanted the special medicine, she would have to pay the price. She could offer her body as the cost. But she pushed him away because she didn't want to betray David because he was pursuing her and she didn't want to hurt his feelings. William leaned closer to her and said, "You're unwilling, huh? Then get out." After saying that, he opened the car door and shoved her out. The next day, Alice took her sister to a restaurant. But during the meal, her sister suddenly collapsed, foaming at the mouth. Just then, William happened to pass by, and Alice begged him to take her sister to the hospital. The doctor informed her that her sister was experiencing seizures caused by a heart condition, and without the special medicine, her life would remain in grave danger. Alice grabbed William's hand, pleading with him to give her a box of medicine. But he shook her hand off, then squatted down, lifting her chin and said, "Everything comes at a price. You have to pay to get it." The reason William was so indifferent to Alice was because he believed that, due to her report 3 years ago, his girlfriend Mary had been hit and left in a vegetative state, still unconscious to this day. Therefore, he planned to torment Alice little by little, making her pay the price. His doctor friend Alan advised him to stop tormenting Alice, as what happened back then wasn't her fault. However, William ignored his advice. Alice went to visit William and showed him a photo she had secretly taken. The photo showed his married sister drinking and socializing with several men. She told him that she was a journalist and could turn the story into a sensational headline, causing negative impact on his family. She offered to exchange the photos for a few boxes of medicine, but William was not afraid of her threat. Instead, he pushed her down onto the pool table. At that moment, David came to visit William. William took Alice into the bathroom, but David directly pushed open the bathroom door. William blocked Alice with his body and scolded David, "Why are you opening the door?" "I'm taking a shower." David closed the door and begged William for some special medicine. William looked at Alice's white shirt, then turned on the shower, soaking her with water. Hearing a woman's voice from the bathroom, David opened the door again, only to see William tightly holding onto a woman. William told David that the special medicine wasn't officially released yet and that its safety was uncertain. If Alice's sister died from taking it, David would have to take responsibility. Hearing this, David hesitated and decided to back off, not wanting to be blamed by Alice later. Alice was disappointed in him, unable to believe he would give up so easily. After David left, William told Alice, "You and David are not suitable for each other. The only way you can save your sister is by becoming my lover." Alice was furious and slapped him, demanding to know why he was bullying her like this. He took her to the hospital, where she saw Mary, who was in a vegetative state. He said, "If it weren't for the report you wrote 3 years ago stirring up public opinion, how could she have been hit by a car and become a vegetable?" Alice replied, "Mary's parents' company produced fake vaccines. If I hadn't reported it, tens of thousands of babies would have been infected by the virus. As a journalist, it's my duty to expose the truth." He grabbed her by the neck and asked her to apologize, but she firmly said, "I did nothing wrong. Mary's parents jumping off the building is what they deserved." William told her that if she didn't apologize, she would never get this special medicine. He embraced Alice, hoping she would think carefully. She pushed his hand away, preparing to leave, but then received a phone call from her mother. Her sister had relapsed, and without the special medicine, she might not survive until tomorrow. In order to save her sister, Alice told William that she was willing to become his toy. He took her back to his home, threw her onto the bed, and kissed her. Seeing her resistance, William got up and said, "You don't want to sleep with me? Then you still have time to regret it now." Alice, determined to save her sister, sat on William's lap and passionately kissed him. The next morning, his assistant handed Alice a pill of the special medicine. Alice asked William why it was only one pill. He replied, "You only slept with me for one night, so of course, I only give you one." She was furious, took the medicine, and left. Suddenly, William received a phone call informing him that his girlfriend Mary had woken up. He hurried to the hospital, happily embracing Mary. However, the doctor told him that due to Mary's long period of bed rest, her leg muscles had atrophied, and she would need extensive leg rehabilitation. Mary asked William if he would reject her because she was crippled. He comforted her, saying, "I won't reject you because I promised your parents I would take good care of you." By chance, Mary noticed a hickey on his neck and asked if he had been with any other women during these 3 years. He denied it and told her not to overthink things. After Alice's sister took the special medicine, her condition improved greatly. Seeing her sister so happy, Alice felt that all her sacrifices had been worth it. Later, she told David that she could never be with him and asked him to stop pursuing her. David asked if she had another man, pleading with her not to reject him. Angered by her cold attitude, he grabbed her hand and tried to force a kiss on her, but she kicked him and ran away. Mary's maid told her that during the 3 years she was in a coma, William had only been with one woman, and that woman was Alice, the reporter who had exposed her parents. Mary was furious and decided to take revenge on Alice, determined to ruin her reputation. In order to collect evidence regarding the fake medicine from back then, Alice went out to dinner with a male boss who knew the truth. The man kept pouring alcohol for her, and before long, Alice began to feel dizzy and hot all over. The man had secretly spiked her red wine with an aphrodisiac. He instructed his assistant to start recording with the camera and leaned in to kiss Alice. She slapped him, but he pushed forward, pinning her to the couch. Alice grabbed a wine bottle from the table and smashed it over his head. The boss slapped her hard in return. She escaped from the room and ran into Alan, her sister's attending doctor. After asking for his help, she fainted in his arms. Alan saw the boss chasing after her and threatened him, saying he would call his wife. The boss was frightened and quickly fled. Alan tried calling William, but he couldn't get through, so he recorded a video and sent it to William's assistant. In the video, Alice was holding William's neck, pouting and demanding a kiss. The assistant showed the video to William, who became jealous and immediately went to the hotel to pick up Alice. In the car, Alice held William's neck and tried to take off his suit jacket. He pushed her onto the back seat and kissed her passionately. Alan intentionally called David, telling him to come and see who was in the car. Since the car belonged to Alan, David assumed that Alan had been cheated on. He ran to the car and peered through the window. Inside, Alice and William were kissing, but when Alice saw David outside, she became worried that he would see her. William teased her, pretending to open the car door. Alice quickly kissed him on the lips, and he closed the door again. Furious, David kicked the car and wanted to teach the people inside a lesson. William opened the window, and when David saw him, he was shocked. William told him to leave and then closed the window, continuing to kiss Alice. Afterward, William called Alan, ordering him to get rid of David. Alan told David that Alice had been hurt and that he should go to the hospital to check on her. To prevent any inconsistencies, William drove Alice to the hospital as quickly as possible. By the time David arrived at the hospital, Alice was already lying in a bed. David apologized to her and checked her injuries, only to notice a hickey on her neck. Alice told him, "Don't come after me anymore. We're done." As David was about to leave, he ran into William, who was holding a bouquet of flowers. William told Alice, "I bought Alan's car." David remembered what had just happened and realized that the woman William had kissed in the car was Alice, as she was wearing a red dress. Enraged, he grabbed William by the collar and asked if he had slept with Alice. Alice replied, "Yes, I slept with William." "So what?" David cursed her, calling her a loose woman who had cheated on him. Alice retorted, "You're still not my boyfriend, so what right do you have to tell me who I can sleep with?" David laughed mockingly, saying, "You think you can beat a vegetable? You're just William's plaything." With that, he stormed off. William leaned in to flirt with Alice, but then he suddenly received a phone call from the maid, telling him that Mary had burned her hand. In fact, Mary had intentionally burned herself to force William to come home, as she didn't want him to be with Alice. The male boss who had harassed Alice was also sent by Mary. The maid advised Mary to hide the evidence from back then, as that would keep the truth hidden, and William would forever see Alice as the perpetrator. When William got home, Mary smelled the scent of woman's perfume on him. He became flustered and hurriedly went to shower and change clothes. Alice's mother called her, urging her to get more medicine for her sister. Alice called William, but the phone was answered by Mary. Mary handed the phone to William, but he hung up immediately. Alice then received a text message from William, telling her to come to his house tonight. When Alice arrived, Mary was emotional and accused Alice of killing her parents. Alice explained, "William asked me to come for the medicine, but he denied it, saying, 'I didn't ask you to come.'" It turned out that Mary had secretly used his phone to text Alice and bring her there. Alice begged William to give her a few boxes of medicine, but Mary stopped him from doing so. Mary told William, "Her sister's life has nothing to do with us. If you give her the medicine, I'll kill myself." To calm her down, William ordered his assistant to throw Alice out. Mary asked him if he had slept with Alice, but he avoided the question. She hugged his neck and tried to kiss him, but he turned his face away. She tightly embraced William, saying, "I have no parents. I only have you. Please don't leave me." After William's assistant escorted Alice out the door, he gave her a box of medicine, as William still couldn't bear to see her sister in life-threatening danger. One night, Alice disguised herself as a hostess to investigate an accident, but unexpectedly ran into William, who was drinking with the perpetrator, Louise. William warned Louise that there might be a reporter among the hostesses, so Louise ordered all the hostesses to strip for a body search. Alice had a hidden camera on her, but Louise demanded she take off her dress. She walked over to William, crouched down, and begged him for help. Louise wanted to continue forcing Alice, but William put his arm around her shoulders. Then, William helped her steer the conversation, leading Louise to admit that he had forcibly demolished a village and, in the resulting conflict, caused the accidental deaths of 3 villagers. Alice secretly recorded his confession. The next day, the news about Louise's forced demolition went viral. Upon investigation, Louise discovered Alice was behind the report and sent people to kidnap her. Her male colleague witnessed this and used her phone to call William for help. Louise drugged Alice's drink with hallucinogens and forced her to drink it. He pinned her down, tore off her shirt, and tried to assault her. Suddenly, the door burst open and William came in, stopping Louise. He draped his suit jacket over Alice and told Louise, "I told you not to touch what's mine, including my woman." Due to the drug, Alice hallucinated and mistook William for her long-lost father, sobbing in his arms. Learning that Louise had drugged Alice, William furiously beat Louise unconscious and carried Alice away. William ordered his assistant to hand over Louise's criminal evidence to the police, ensuring he would spend the rest of his life in prison. His doctor friend, Alan, teased him about whether he had fallen for Alice, but he stubbornly denied it. Alan gave William an investigation report revealing that Alice had not falsely accused Mary's parents. They were indeed involved in producing counterfeit drugs, and Mary also knew about it. William captured Sam, another person involved in the fake drug production, and brought him before Mary. Panicking, Mary denied knowing Sam, but accidentally dropped a bracelet, a keepsake from her parents. William found a memory card hidden in the bracelet. His assistant accessed it, revealing all the evidence from back then. William grabbed Mary by the neck and said coldly, "I hate being lied to. Your parents did me a favor, so I let you stay here. Once your leg heals, get out." Mary clung to his leg, begging desperately, but he kicked her away and ordered his assistant to hand over Sam and all the evidence to the police. The next day, William brought flowers to visit Alice in the hospital, but saw her happily chatting with Alan. Feeling jealous, he shot Alan a look to leave, and Alan quickly found an excuse to exit. To thank William for saving her, Alice invited him to dinner. William thought they'd go to a restaurant, but Alice brought him home and personally cooked for him. While going upstairs, William tripped on the stairs and accidentally kissed Alice. He wanted to kiss her again, but she shyly pushed him away and offered her hand, saying, "Let me lead you." William held her hand and followed her upstairs. When they reached the door, Alice's younger sister opened it. Alice was surprised, thinking her sister and mother weren't home. Her sister excitedly told their mom. Sis brought her boyfriend home. When their mother realized William was the man providing the medicine, she was overjoyed, seeing him as the family's savior. Later, Alice brought William to her bedroom. Seeing a family photo, Alice shared that her father had also been a journalist, but was killed during an investigation. Holding back tears, she said, "I want to be a good journalist like my father, fighting evil and upholding justice." William hugged her, stroking her head, and said, "I'm sorry for how I treated you before. From now on, I'll protect you." Realizing she was getting too emotional, Alice pulled away, but William held her and gently kissed her. Alice wrapped her arms around his neck, responding to his kiss. Just then, her sister burst in to call them for dinner, screamed, and quickly pretended she hadn't seen anything, shutting the door. William wanted to continue kissing Alice, but she reminded him, "We should eat now." William said, "Let's end this relationship." Shocked, Alice asked if he no longer wanted to give her medicine. Instead of answering, he kissed her forehead and said, "Come to my place tonight. I have a surprise for you." William ordered his assistant to prepare a 2-year supply of medicine for Alice's sister, enough to last until her surgery. However, Mary overheard their conversation. She tearfully apologized to William and begged him to give her a chance to personally deliver the medicine to Alice. That night, when Alice arrived at William's house, she only saw Mary and the medicine on the table. Alice pleaded with Mary not to cut off her sister's medication. Mary agreed to give her 1 pill a day, but on the condition that Alice worked as a hostess in the bar. To keep the medicine supply for her sister, Alice reluctantly agreed. After Alice left, Mary called David and told him that Alice would soon be heading to the bar. David hung up and obsessively stared at a photo of his deceased mother. Alice resembled his mother, whom he was deeply obsessed with, which fueled his desire to make Alice his girlfriend. When Alice arrived at the bar entrance, she called William and asked, "Did you send Mary to give me the medicine?" William replied, "Yes. Are you happy?" Alice cried and said she was happy, so she called him just to thank him. As William was about to confess his feelings, Alice hung up. She entered the bar and changed into a seductive dress. Perverted customers groped her, but she had to obediently drink with them. Later, a man sent by Mary handed her a pill and demanded money, so Alice threw all her tips at him. On her way home, David stopped her and offered to drive her back. William was waiting downstairs at Alice's building when he saw her in David's car. David suggested that Alice change out of the provocative dress into a cheongsam he had prepared to avoid alarming her mother and sister. Alice agreed and let David zip it up for her. This scene was witnessed by William, who angrily rushed over and punched David. He grabbed Alice's hand and dragged her away, demanding she take off the cheongsam. But Alice slapped him. William explained that David was a pervert who, at the age of 8, witnessed his mother jumping to her death in this cheongsam. Since then, David had been making many cheongsams, looking for women who resembled his mother. He never found the right one until Alice. Terrified, Alice hurriedly removed the cheongsam. William handed her his suit jacket to put on. After changing, Alice was about to leave, but William grabbed her and said, "Don't wear such thick lipstick again. It's tacky." Then he kissed her. Alice pushed him away, saying she wanted nothing more to do with him. William tried to explain, but she refused to listen and left. William held the red cheongsam, walked up to David, and took out a lighter, setting the cheongsam on fire. David broke down, rushed over to grab the burning cheongsam from the ground, and let out a heart-wrenching scream. Back home, William grabbed Mary by the neck, demanding to know what she had said to Alice. Mary didn't confess about forcing Alice to work as a hostess. William ordered her to get out of his house. Furious, Mary swore to take revenge on Alice. Meanwhile, David ordered his assistant to find the best tailor to restore the burned cheongsam. Staring at his mother's portrait, he vowed to take Alice for himself. The next night, Alice went to the bar to continue working, but ran into William. He asked why she was there, and she coldly replied that she was there to make money. Enraged, William smashed the wine glass, grabbed Alice by the neck and kissed her. He said, "You want money? Spend the night with me, and I'll give you $100,000. He ordered her to take off her dress. Crying, Alice unzipped it, but William suddenly felt pity and told her to stop. However, Alice insisted on taking it off, angering William so much that he stormed out. After her shift, Alice encountered Mary's man again. Displeased with the little money Alice had earned, he beat her and threw her the special medicine. Injured, Alice collapsed to the ground and fainted. Watching secretly from the shadows, William rushed over and carried her to safety. Dr. Allen examined Alice and said her fainting was due to long-term sleep deprivation and excessive drinking. William found the special pill in her bag and realized she was being threatened. He captured the man delivering the pills, who confessed that Mary had ordered him to torment Alice daily. William had him beaten and sent to the police. When Alice woke up and realized the medicine was missing, she panicked. William appeared with the pill. She knelt and begged him to give it back. He calmly told her he had already sent his assistant to deliver the medicine to her sister. He questioned why she hadn't come to ask him and why she didn't trust him. Alice was speechless. William took her to Mary's house and forced Mary to admit everything. Mary confessed, and William pushed her to the ground, saying, "I never loved you. I only agreed to take care of you because your parents once helped me." When Mary tried to attack Alice with a cane, William stopped her and sneered, "Seems like your leg has healed. I'm dismissing your medical team starting today." Mary completely broke down and collapsed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. William took Alice home, and she fell asleep on his shoulder. He gestured to his assistant not to wake her and let her sleep peacefully. The next morning, Alice's sister went downstairs to take out the trash and happened to see William's car. Excitedly, she called William, brother-in-law. William then instructed his assistant to contact the top heart surgeon, Dr. Chris, to operate on Alice's sister. David visited Mary and suggested they join forces to stop Alice and William from being together. Upon learning that the famous cardiologist Chris was Mary's uncle, David devised a scheme. Alice's sister suddenly relapsed and was rushed to the hospital. The doctor informed Alice that without a heart transplant, her sister wouldn't survive another 3 months. Devastated, Alice broke down in tears. William embraced her, promising to do everything he could to save her sister. He gave Alan $1 billion to urgently find a heart donor. 3 days later, Alan successfully found a donor. William told Alice that he could invite the top cardiologist, Chris, to perform the surgery, but under one condition: Alice had to become his girlfriend. Alice agreed, and William excitedly hugged her, beaming with joy. The next day, William took her to meet Chris. Chris explained that Alice's sister's condition was complicated, and he couldn't guarantee the surgery would succeed. Despite the risks, Alice was determined to proceed, and Chris agreed to schedule the surgery as soon as possible. Grateful, Alice kissed William on the cheek. Mary went to visit her uncle Chris, begging him not to operate on Alice's sister, but he refused. Mary then revealed she had kidnapped his son and threatened to kill him if Chris didn't comply. Forced to protect his son, Chris reluctantly agreed. On the day of the surgery, Chris mysteriously disappeared. Mary called William, revealing that Chris was in her hands. She promised that if William came to her, she would let Chris perform the surgery. After William left the hospital, Mary disguised herself as a nurse and entered Alice's sister's room. She threw a stack of photos onto Alice's sister, exposing that Alice had been working as a hostess in a bar to pay for her treatment. Mary relentlessly insulted Alice's sister, calling her a burden, and showed her a video of Chris declaring he would never perform the surgery. Mary then placed sleeping pills on the table, suggesting Alice's sister end her life to stop dragging Alice down. Meanwhile, William arrived at David's house and found Chris beaten and bloodied on the floor. David admitted that Mary had tricked him and Alice's sister might already be dead. Later, Alan rushed into the hospital room, only to discover that Alice's sister had overdosed on sleeping pills and fallen into a coma. He hurriedly picked her up and rushed to the emergency room, but she still couldn't be saved. Alice was overwhelmed with grief, collapsing in William's arms after seeing her sister's lifeless body being wheeled out of the emergency room. When Alice regained consciousness, she slapped William, blaming him for leaving the hospital to meet Mary, which led to her sister's death. Alan handed William a voice recorder containing a conversation Alice's sister had unknowingly recorded. Mary was verbally abusing and provoking her. Enraged, William ordered his men to capture Mary and David. He slapped Mary hard and commanded his bodyguards to cripple her legs before sending her to the police. He then kicked David to the ground and savagely beat him. William further ordered his men to castrate David and lock him in a psychiatric hospital. In prison, Mary was brutally beaten by other inmates every day. David completely lost his mind, wearing his mother's cheongsam and dressing as a woman while laughing hysterically at his mother's portrait. At her sister's grave, Alice received a wedding gift that her sister had prepared for her, a pair of rings. She played the voice message her sister had recorded, in which she wished Alice eternal happiness and hoped that she and William would have a long, loving marriage and children. William and Alice exchanged the rings and embraced tightly. Alice promised her sister she would live happily, and William vowed to give Alice the happiness she deserved. They held each other tightly again, fulfilling their promises,